Okay, I'm going to start this video with a blanket statement, and of course, blanket statements are always dangerous because there's always exceptions. But I want to counsel you to, in general, avoid the new when it comes to investing. And so the topic of this video is neomania, which is basically a madness or a craving or an insanity for the new, which is something that characterizes a lot of different life domains, but specifically it's a big problem in investing. Just for a quick tangent, you see it in medicine, for example. Obviously, there have been lots of incredible advancements and cures and developments that have happened in modern medicine, but modern medicine also is littered with the corpses of different therapies that had a lot of promise. A lot of people maybe rush to, say, prescribe a given med or a given therapy, but then a lot of times a med will be pulled from the market because later it was discovered it was harmful. And you think about examples like lobotomies or maybe thalidomide or different examples of that through healthcare, where you don't necessarily want to be the very first person kind of trying out a new therapy. You want to make sure that it's safe, and sometimes it takes some time in the marketplace to determine that. So that metaphor you can actually translate into an investment domain, into the investment domain, and really the analogy here is never buy the first model year of a new car. That's sort of the essential principle that underlies this concept. And why is that? Well, the first model year of a new car, of course, you hope that the automaker did a good job building the product and designing it and testing it and so on, but that's in the lab and that's on the practice track, right? There's no substitute for how the vehicle or the medical therapy or whatever, how it functions in the real world, and you have to have real world exposure to see how it does, right? And so you buy the second model year of a new car because they can find all the mistakes, all the defects, all the things that they didn't uncover when they were developing the car. And then that second model year is going to have a much lower defect rate. It might be a much more reliable car, right? So I think this is the kind of concept to sort of extract and apply to investing and just basically avoid the new. And I'll go through a few examples why. So if you think about, say, any new industry, and there's lots of examples here. You think about, say, when the auto industry was new in the early part of the 20th century, in the United States alone, there was something like 40 different automakers. So you could be early or new in terms of investing in these companies, but chances are the one you bought wasn't going to make it, right? It wasn't going to survive. And in a lot of ways, it's sort of much safer to wait until that industry consolidated down to the big three into a genuine oligopoly, and then you could have held any of those companies during the following decades and made tremendous amounts of money with far less risk, actually, because you had sort of industry stability. There's only three companies, so oligopoly rules are basically going to have nobody's going to bomb pricing or try to abuse each other in terms of market share. These kind of things happen once an industry is not so new and it's stabilized. You can draw the same example for the railroad industry in the 1800s. You could talk about the internet industry when it was new, the early 90s. There was obviously a big boom that happened, and then, of course, a big collapse that happened. And you didn't necessarily know which companies were going to make it through. But then after that period happened, it was pretty clear who was going to make it, and those investments were tremendous. So I would think about this with, say, today, AI would be another good example where you have a couple problems. One is this problem of you don't know who's going to make it, who's going to be the dominant player. The other thing is a lot of companies may just put out press releases talking about their new AI products and use that to kind of boost their stock, which is obviously at your expense as an investor who maybe can't tell right away. We're not going to know which companies are doing this and which companies actually are eventually going to have a real business doing real AI in the future, right? And of course, in a lot of respects, it's not clear necessarily what shape AI is going to take in the future. So in general, you want to avoid these kinds of new industries. And then finally, I guess the final point is to think about investment product. So again, Wall Street is littered with the corpses of retail investors who were sort of fooled into buying some kind of new, exotic, opaque, brand new product, right? And those are the ones that the Wall Street machine will market to you. Again, those are the things to avoid. Any kind of product that isn't clear or that has opaque pricing, and especially is new, avoid, right? You want to stick with the tried and true. Stick with basic stocks, basic index funds. Avoid some kind of sexy, exotic new product, especially when you can't necessarily see all the workings inside it, or how maybe the broker that's selling it to you, how he or she might get paid too, right? So, the metaphor here is, remember when the frontal lobotomy was thought of as this miracle cure for people with mental illness, right? And of course, later it was deemed, as medical consensus changed its thinking, frontal lobotomies were considered barbaric and they're never done, right? So you don't want to be the first guy who lines up to get a frontal lobotomy, just like you don't want to be the first guy that lines up to buy some exotic financial product, okay? So Neomania, avoid it, don't do it. And in general, it's a blanket statement, so there's exceptions, but in general, avoid the new with investing, okay? As always, thanks for watching. And actually, I'll leave you with one question, something to kind of think about. Cryptocurrency, okay? Cryptocurrency is fairly new, right? And of course, Bitcoin is the oldest of the cryptocurrencies, or the first of the cryptocurrencies. So maybe I'll leave as sort of a question to think about for viewers. Is Bitcoin new? What do you think? So if you have thoughts on this or other feedback or questions, feel free to leave a comment below this video. And as always, thanks for watching.